Good evening, everybody, and welcome to lecture number 26. Today was a day fraught with problems in the first two sessions. First we had no audio, then we had the wrong lecture. It was a kind of wreaking havoc. So let's hope that it goes a little bit better tonight, and if there are any problems, please write it in the question box so I can see it and react to it before we go too far into the lecture. A few of you have started to write down that you wanted this not to end. However, this course is ending after session number 30. But that doesn't mean we can't do something else, something more. Please email me with your suggestions. Let me know what you want to see. And it takes me a little while to put it together. I can't shake this out of my sleeve as much as I would like to. But we can definitely put something else together and do something more, especially for this group. And so that we can continue to meet. I need a little bit of break, but then let me know how it's going. Today we will be talking about abscesses, problems with the frog, metabolic issues, not necessarily in this order. Let's talk about abscesses first. When physiological hoof form is restored, the hoof care professional often is confronted with abscesses. Seldom are these abscesses grounded in open wounds or breaks in the hoof capsule, but rather can be seen as garbage removal. During the time the hoof was contracted, part of the internal tissues have died off due to unphysiological pressure. Small parts may be absorbed after hoof mechanism and circulation are restored, but larger parts of necrotic tissue have to be encapsulated and expelled. The encapsulated abscess moves through pressure differences on weight-bearing and non-weight-bearing to a weak point where it can exit the hoof capsule. These weak points are usually the connections between two different kinds of horn, such as the white line, coronary band, or frog bar connection. So what you see here is an abscess on the left top picture that has come out the coronary band in a rather vile and big way. This is all split open. But that's how far it goes. It stops right here, and it stops here. So that's just it. The bottom picture is not related, but I want to show you how it happens that sometimes horse owners just say, wow, there was all of a sudden an abscess hole in the wall. And I have a picture later that shows that again. That abscess hole wasn't there all of a sudden. That abscess hole was there since the beginning when it came out here. And then it grows down to there. And for some reason, may this be dirt, or they haven't seen the horse in quite a while, or they haven't paid attention, it grows down to that. But it didn't come out all of a sudden. Not happening. The added activity within the hoof capsule leads to the dilation of all blood vessels. One can feel the pulsation in the arteries on both sides of the pastern. There is really no room in the hoof capsule for this growing abscess, and the horse is often in a lot of pain. Sometimes to the point where he does not bear weight on the leg at all. Sometimes the horse loses a lot of weight during the process. Here you have two abscess holes, one here and one here. And this, what you see up here, that is detox related most likely as well. Because once the hoof is detoxed, these things heal up just fine. As soon as the abscess has been expelled, the horse will bear weight on the leg again. This picture here looks terrible. This is a picture from a horse that I believe, if I get the story right, got Rachel Coggins in Texas to become a hoof care provider because she had so much trouble with this horse. But the abscess hole is really only this, and it dribbles down here, and you see how wet this is, and that is pus or abscess secretion. What you see here has nothing to do with this abscess hole. That's prolapsed corium. I'd rather have an abscess hole, I give you that much, but that's a different story. So no, abscesses don't look like this. I just want to clarify that. The liquid that is contained in the pus is at times absorbed by the surrounding horn. The horse is first lame and not lame at all anymore. No one knows what happened and how that happened and what exactly happened. A while later, during trimming, there appears a hole in the sole. This was where the abscess was reabsorbed when the horse was lame. This little hole here gives it away, and sometimes this hole becomes bigger as trimming goes on. We will look at this in a moment. In conventional veterinary medicine, abscesses are thought of as born of an infection. They are opened and cut out as far as possible, taking much healthy tissue so as to avoid to leave any infected tissue, which may build a new abscess. Often pressure bandages are applied to avoid the prolapse of the corium. When we examine the before learned hoof anatomy, the following is true. The sole corium is in the non-weight bearing phase under pressure. If there is an opportunity for the corium to escape that pressure, as in the hole from the abscess, it will be pressed out, but it will not fall out. This is the case here in this first picture up here. Non-weight bearing phase, where the hoof capsule is narrow and the corium is compressed. As soon as the horse bears weight again, the sole corium will be relaxed and not pushed outwards through the hole anymore, but will be smooth. That is the case here in the middle picture. Weight bearing. Walls are a little bit more out. The next day one can already see a yellow skin over the hole. The new horn is being built. After a week the hole is usually closed again, completely with horn, provided the horse was exposed to continuous movement and adequate moisture. The adequate moisture keeping the hoof capsule soft, and the movement providing more circulation and therefore the ability to cover this with horn like it is here. This is one of those things that you have to just believe. The same with the refrigerator light. When you close the door, does it go off? When the horse becomes fully weight-bearing, does this corium go where it belongs? We don't know this because we can't look under a fully weight-bearing hoof. But this is what I learned and this is what I believe. This makes good sense to me. Horses have an excellent immune mechanism against bacteria, provided there is efficient circulation. The construction of the hoof capsule prevents the infiltration of bacteria from the outside. Even when an abscess develops after an injury, the equine organism can usually prevent a widespread infection. To help the horse expel an abscess faster, hepa, sulfur, and silicea may be given. You also may use hypericum to lessen the accompanying nerve pain. Superhydration of the hoof capsule helps to expel the abscess faster. Once the abscess has broken out, soaking with apple cider vinegar helps the new tissue to recover faster. You also can soak in water enriched with beneficial microorganisms or colloidal silver. In this drawing here, we see some kind of abscess that often happens when there is overlaid bar onto the sole, and then you get some pressure necrosis if this happens for a long time. And when you peel that bar away and trim it to where it really belongs, then you have this black gunk here, and sometimes even with a little bit of pus left over, but this has all no feeling anymore. And once this is exposed to oxygen again and cleaned out a little bit, it will fill in with horn, no problem. On the left top, you see a superhydrated foot. This horse was delivered to me into the hoof clinic for a different problem. He had some white line separation in the front that was resected, and somehow that wasn't growing out, and he was very, very lame. So, and one could hardly say on which hoof he was more lame. So I did a consultation on the horse about 80 miles away from here, and then I said, I can't deal with this in the field. How about you bring this horse to me? And so they brought the horse, and all the while, because he had been standing on shavings, I had hoof boots on him, and when he arrived, they wanted me to trim him right away, and I wanted to trim him too, because he had very high heels and was much toe bearing, and that was a resected white line at the toe. Didn't work well. So that is how this hoof became so superhydrated, and that is how it looked from the bottom before I ever touched it. On the right bottom side, you see a thermograph of a hoof that has a shoe on, but it also has a sole abscess. And I just want to show you this, how this looks on the thermograph. So this horse that was brought with the superhydrated hoof, first of all, I lowered the heel so that we could rebalance this all together. We talked about all of this last week. And then I kept on just trimming him, and he was, as I said, he was very lame and fairly miserable. And about 3-4 weeks later, when I performed, I don't know, trim number 25, I trimmed him every few days, a little sliver here, a little sliver there, and then all of a sudden, in 3 out of 4 hoofs, the soles came off. They just abscessed off. And remember that little hole I showed you earlier? Well, sometimes it just looks like this. this is an abscess hole, and this is an abscess hole, and there's one here. He had one good foot, so to say, good foot, whatever that is. So all you can do in such a case is you can trim every couple of days the flaps off till you get to tissue that is firmly connected. But you see that everywhere there is no blood under here. There's already new sole horn growing, and part of this has been reabsorbed. That doesn't mean it is less painful. Here we have another sole abscess, and where you can just peel the whole sole off after a while. The horse was, it looks, even in a two-dimensional picture, it looks to me as if he's rotated. The coffin bone is here firmly pressing onto the sole. So this is not such a good situation, but what do? You can't leave this there, and you see how you can peel it off easily, even by hand. So you have to deal with this, and preferably in a clean environment, so that no dirt lodges under there and creates new pressures. Then I would like to share with you, since we're talking about abscesses, the story of Batur. And when we talk about metabolism, we will see more of this horse. This horse was with me for over a year and a quarter. And he was an older, he was 26-year-old Dutch warm blood, formerly Grand Prix horse, and was imported from Holland with all his knowledge. And I got him back, long story that I won't, that's not important. I got him back in October of 2008, and he was in really desperate shape. He was literally more dead than alive. When I saw him walk off the trailer, I couldn't believe it. I had the horse briefly in my care in 2006, and he looked at that time really good and was very rideable and just needed a little hoof care. And I provided that hoof care and sent him home after 6 weeks. But this time he was here to stay. He was given back to me, and I kept him and tried my best. So when he was on his way to getting better after about the first year, he one day came up with a swollen leg and this curious rope burn here. I do not know where this really comes from. There are not that many possibilities. We have no wire fencing. We have no loose ropes laying around. Maybe he got in the back of the property into some vegetation. I really don't know what it was. I never found it. So, but his leg was significantly swollen all the way above the hock, and he became gradually every day more lame. And I went, okay, this is an abscess. Not a big deal. It was a big deal because he was not in good shape even after a year of careful pampering. But this was the leg, how it looked from the front on the right side, and it was rather swollen and didn't look as if it's going to get better soon. And then he blew, you saw that picture already before, he blew this huge abscess out of the coronet band, and obviously was right away feeling better. In hindsight now, looking at the picture, I see something here and see something here that I just could at the time not interpret. But it's definitely there, and meanwhile I know what it is, and we're going to get to this. Just want you to see this. This is already there. So these abscesses really happen when the horse is on his way to getting better. And I was really glad in a way to see this, because now I thought he has more vitality in his body, and now he can deal with the necrotic tissue in his hoofs, and from here on out he will get better. And I had a slew of veterinarians working on this horse with metabolism and nutritionists, and did whatever I could. So unfortunately the swelling in this leg did not go down. The abscess was out, and usually when the abscess is out, the swelling goes down gradually over the next few days, and then it's gone. But in this case it didn't go down. If it did go down, only a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to. So a couple of weeks later, we find him with this in the pasture in the morning. It came literally overnight. A huge abscess on the top of the fetlock, and blown out instantly. Poof, there it was. And this horse had close observation every day, because he was a really tough case. So this is what we had, and then I started first of all to rinse it out with microorganisms in the catheter tube. And the catheter, you could stick it into this hole here, several inches in, not a problem. It seemed to penetrate everything here around the bend. You name it, I could rinse this everywhere, and I did 2-3 times a day. I also started putting bag balm around this here everywhere, so that the pussy secretion that came out of this would not destroy the skin around. And you still can see the remnants of the abscess down here, now covered in red because it was bloody. At the time I had a veterinarian visiting quite often on a friendly basis, and she said, if I were you, I would cover this leg because it is still so swollen, so that the tissue doesn't get destroyed from all the swelling, and sweat it a little bit so that the swelling goes down. So I put some saran wrap around it. In the very beginning I put a gauze pad over this big abscess hole. Later on I didn't anymore. Put the saran wrap around, put a stable quilt over it, wrapped it, fastened it with Velcro, and left this on for 24 hours at a time. So that really helped with the swelling. You can see it a little bit here in this picture. The swelling here went really down, and the microorganisms helped quite a bit. And then I started to apply clay on the whole leg, and and also I put the clay over here. It just came off with the bandage, so that's why it doesn't show up here, but the clay was over the hole, in the hole, everywhere. And the clay that I'm making is either dynamite, the clay that Dynamite has, or bentonite clay, also known as Indian clay from the health food store. And I mix this with 24 plus Manuka honey. That is, the Manuka honey has a strong antibiotic property, and the higher the number, 24 is, I believe, the highest number, the more powerful it is, and the more expensive it is. Also in the health food store. Then I put in some microorganisms to stir this up, sometimes some colloidal silver. Mix this all so it makes a paste, and put this on about every wound there is. and it is amazing. It heals it up nicely, super fast, and without any proud flesh. So you can see this here, how this hole actually in this picture looks very nice and very clean, and I could just see this come together in no time, and I said, yes, we have this nailed. However, there are these two little satellite abscesses here, and remember what I saw in that picture with where the coronet was split open, where I said I didn't read this right at the time, but it was already oozing slightly. So that did not bode well. And here I made a picture of it before I did anything, of the medial abscess hole, and then I pushed a little bit on it and had a big glob of pus on the ground instantly. It just fell out. All the while the horse was in a really good mood. His eyes were bright, he had a good appetite, he was outright happy. And I said, good for you. You must feel better after this has now all opened. So this is better now. So the rest of the story was, a few days later we had a really bad storm, and the horse laid overnight either down in the shed where we have rubber, or he fell down. There were no struggle signs, so I want to believe that he laid down. It's also easier on my mind. And he couldn't get up anymore. And I had the choice to put him up with the tractor, but he was so weak, and he had that bad leg under him, and he just could not get a purchase on that leg, no matter what aid I offered him. And I offered him quite a bit. And so after I fed him a big breakfast, while I was waiting for the vet, we put him down. But I want to share this with you because I have seen body abscesses like this when horses started to heal. That has happened before, and happened quite a few times. And it's not a good reason to freak out. It is a sign that the body is getting rid in one or another way of toxins. This horse was 26 years old and had most of the time been managed conventionally, and my 1 year of trying to detox him was not enough. It didn't pick it up anymore. So much for Mr. Binky. Here we have yet another coronet band abscess that has grown down. So this hole also did not appear all of a sudden. This causes a little bit problems when it grows more down. Then there comes a point where this just breaks out. And so it be. The horse has enough hoof still to stand on. A colleague in New Hampshire had this experience with her horse where an abscess kind of split the heel, and it was in the middle of the winter with lots of abrasive snow, so putting anything on, unless you put a wrap over it, wasn't an option. So she just let it be, and you can see how it healed up here in a few weeks. And later on you couldn't see anything anymore. But I thought she documented this rather nicely. Abscesses are really disconcerting for the horse owner, because the horse is really miserable, can lose a lot of weight, and the question is what to do about it. Well, the first thing I do when I expect an abscess to happen is I give the horse 1 dose of hepa-sulfur or hepa-sulfuricum, same thing, in a dilution of 6x30C and 200C. If you mix something together like this, we name this a homochord, and that so kind of covers all possibilities. Hepa-sulfuricum helps speed up the eruption of the abscess. And I only give 1 dose, and in homeopathy 1 dose is what you give 1 time. It doesn't matter how much it is. It doesn't need to be 5 pellets or 10 pellets each. If you can get it in, and you can be sure that they got it, it can be 1 pellet. But I usually give somewhere between 3 and 5 of each, so that I can be sure that it really is in the mouth cavity. Another thing about homeopathic remedies that come in globule or form, they often say not to touch them, and this is true, but the reason why you're not supposed to touch them is not because then you will absorb the remedy. The reason is because most companies, except Heal, the Heal company, all the other companies spray the homeopathic remedy on the outside of the globule. And if you touch it, you rub that off. So that is why you're not supposed to touch it. That's the only reason. So then in order to resolve the abscess really, I give 6x30C and 200C of silicea, also known as silica. Depends a little bit which company makes it. You can order all these things on the internet, or you can buy some of them, not the 200C, but the 6x and the 30C you can buy in a health food store. And then once the abscess has broken, I give Arnica montana, also in 6x30C and 200C for trauma, and Hypericum in 6x30C and 200C for nerve pain. You can give the Hypericum already for nerve pain when the abscess is still happening. At the same time, before the abscess has come out, I soak the hoof in warm water several times a day, and so that the hoof capsule can become softer, which makes it less painful. It also moves more, which helps the abscess to be pushed out faster, and I walk the horse several times a day, because movement is really important for the abscess to resolve faster. Once the abscess has broken, you can soak in apple cider vinegar solution, or effective microorganisms, or colloidal silver. This is so kind of the standard about treating abscesses. Some people may mistake this for a coronet abscess. In this particular case it was not. This abscessing went all around the hoof capsule. And this horse was actually, you see it here, you see it here, you see it here, went all around. And the horse was losing the hoof capsule. So that was that. So that's not resolvable with any remedies or anything. This hoof capsule is coming off. When it is that far, it is pushing it off from above. We're going to talk about lost hoof capsules a little bit next time, and I think a little bit more the following time. Let's talk about metabolism. And my trusty steed, Mr. Bateur, Mr. Binky, that is how he looked when he came to us. The hoofs weren't really a problem. They were a little flat, didn't have a lot of toe height, but he was moving well on them. But when he walked off the trailer, moving was not on his mind. All that was on his mind was surviving. And this is how he stood there. The eyes crusted, the look real sad. Don't forget this was a Grand Prix horse. It's a real sad picture. And so I really tried to get him a lot better. When blood chemistry and metabolic issues are at hand, they play a large role on the recovery rate of a horse with any lameness issues, but especially on a horse with rotation and separation. If this comes all together, metabolic issues, and it usually does, with severe hoof problems, then it is even harder on the horse. Most likely, this horse has been in this state for many years. Environmental challenges, in addition to vaccinations, pharmaceuticals, and many other insults added by a well-meaning owner or caretaker. People in the horse world look for all kind of help, and sometimes in the wrong areas. There is so much, especially here in the United States, that you can buy over the counter. Veterinarians supply you with pharmaceuticals. I do not know a veterinarian that doesn't freely distribute bute paste, bute pills, if you only ask for it. You can even get injectables from them, and they ask you if you need to buy syringes and needles as well. So a lot of things are given to the horse just by a well-meaning owner, and unfortunately they make things worse. The equine body does not deal well with pharmaceuticals, neither does the human body. That's not what we're discussing here. So these horses get, without showing it, sicker and sicker and sicker. This horse here we nursed through the first winter, detoxed him, and indeed he got better. What happens when we get this horse in our care and just tackle the hoofs? With restored hoof mechanism, a myriad of additional toxins are released into the system by circulation. The already overloaded system cannot deal with this appropriately, and the horse goes down. When we talk about a horse going down, we mean he lays down most of the day, which is very unnatural, and he lays down at night just the same. And you can only get him up for very short periods of time. They just have given up. They don't have the power anymore to stand. This means he cannot stay longer upright. He's laying down a lot, which adds additional stress to his system, as he was designed to be up and moving all of the time. Think of this kind of horse in the same terms as a heroin addict. Detoxification is hell, especially when it is not supported. If he can get through it, even better, but he may have a weakened heart, liver, kidney, or digestive system and will not be able to withstand the onslaught of detoxification. So, with other words, you have to be careful. You can't just throw everything at a horse like this and expect him to detoxify fast and then everything is well. You have to really nurse such a horse along, which requires that you see him several times a day, that you're there every day for this horse and do everything in your power to get him better. While his vitality got better, he lost a lot of weight, which seemed to be not replaceable, but he felt better. And I think you can see this, that he got better here. Let's rethink the scenario. The horse comes into your care and you realize his circulatory, digestive and metabolic systems are very compromised. He has been that way for years. Take your time to detox this horse before you tackle the hooves. While there are many formulas out there for general detox, there is also milk thistle for liver detox, dandelion root for kidney detox, and foxglove to help the heart along. All these herbal remedies have their place and can help. I have just recently started my horses on a general detox that comes from a company named AnimalElement.com, or actually that is the name of the detox. It's named Performance Detox from AnimalElement.com. And I just started using this, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago, and it's meanwhile gone. I've divided it up between all the horses. But that was one that looked really good to me. It had a lot of supporting properties. And you can see here, while he has over the winter lost weight, he has also developed some rain rot, which over the croup here, actually it was everywhere, it was here too, just can't see it. But he looked a lot better. Look at his ears and eyes here. Can we turn these feeders around, and maybe there is still a kernel to get there. He was always all for eating. Eating was good. And he got more and more alert and more willing to participate in the world in general. With the advent of new grass, he gained more weight, and this was about the best he looked. But then he lost it all in the abscess bout again. For a nutritional detox, you may want to try the program offered by VitaRoyale.com. They have a rather strong detox program, and we offer, all of us as instructors have a meridian stress assessment system, also known as computerized electrodermal system. You can contact Audrey Bryant or Jerry Schmidt or me, and we can do an individualized detox that is rather powerful. It has to be done various rounds. Just once is not enough, but we have seen excellent results with that. The horse's body will always be the most susceptible at his weakest link. If the weakest link are the hoofs, you will be fighting an uphill battle without detoxification first. And you may lose that battle, like we did here. But sometimes it is too late. There's nothing you can do anymore. And that was the case here. A few years ago, I put one of my own horses on this individualized detox. You can find information about this under hoofcareunlimited.com. That is hoofcareunltd.com /MSAS.htm. And I put this Arabian on this individualized detox, and this is how his hoof capsule all of a sudden grew in a much better horn quality. You can see how under the dark new horn there's the old horn that wasn't really in good shape, and after I put him on, after I got some of those toxins out, he really grew a better quality horn. He had, however, still no coffin bone, and we will see some of that next week. So much about metabolism and detoxing. Let's talk about the frogs. Totally different theme. Here you see three different fairly good looking frogs. They are all at least wide. They all have unfortunately still a little bit thrush here. Even this crevice here hints on thrush, and so does this little bit. I know it's not much, but it is. To be perfect, it is too much. It still hints that some sugar and starch could be removed from the diet, and maybe some more movement would be necessary, and also maybe some detox more would be necessary. But these are three different hoofs with fairly good looking frogs and pads and bulbs. So there are some problems with frogs, and that is that sometimes they are a little bit too high, or actually sometimes they are a lot too high, and then they get some pressure necrosis under the frog horn, between the frog horn and the frog corium, and then they shed off. They start peeling off, and this is the case here. And I just made pictures of this horse, and he shed off the entire frog little by little. And just like with the sole abscess, all you can do in this case is you can start peeling this off as it comes loose and look at it every day. But you see under here is already a perfectly good new frog again. Here and here. And the rest is still the old horn, and you don't go digging. You just, with a very sharp knife, just peel the edges off as far as possible so that you don't get new pressure points. Here you have the continuation of this. This is the same hole from a different viewpoint. And here you have almost the entire frog exposed a few days later. This horn just comes off more and more. And usually when things like this happen, afterwards the horse's hoof grows in better, and you're actually, after abscessing, it always seems to me that you're getting now somewhere, unless you lose the whole horse. So here you have now the entire frog, the old frog removed except for this tiny little bit here. But you have a nice new frog under there, and it just takes a little time till all of this grows back in. And that was actually not this horse's problem at all. He had quite some other problems. So then we have another problem beside the shedding frog, and that is a constricted or choked out frog. That happens usually with high bars. The bars are here very high. This is all bar. Yikes. And these high bars undermine the blood supply to the frog. And when you don't have sufficient blood supply to the frog, then the bacteria in the onslaught of moisture and what have you that attack the frog on an everyday basis win over the growth of the frog. The frog can just not grow fast enough because the blood supply is choked off. And therefore it starts to deteriorate. Once you trim those bars down and get this hoof balanced and get this horse moving again correctly, this frog will grow back in almost no time. Here you see such an example again. This horse has really a lot of challenges from the trim paradigm. Very high bars that run far forward, very high heels, when you look here and here and here and here, they are really high. The bars are high on both feet. Here the bar seems to make it turn even and be a little bit higher. Here they are high too. They really should go from here to here. This would be a good bar. Just this. But then the heel needs to come down first, without a question. And then when you look at the pictures on the top, you see here that there is already a hole in the frog. It is so moth-eaten. But then look, there's one heel higher than the other, and this is after trimming, not before. So this is not such a professional trim, I want to say. This looks rather difficult for the horse to live on. And all that the owner wanted to know in this case is what kind of remedy she should smear on here to help that frog. That is a trim problem, not a remedy on the frog solution. Here we have, as a last slide, some examples of two different horses. One before trimming. This here was before I ever trimmed this horse. And these trims are quite a few years back, so we trim meanwhile a little bit different. This was about 6 weeks later, and you see how much frog we have gained here. Even so, the horse was not in a optimal environment. He didn't get enough movement. He still got stalled, but it got a lot better. And you see that here this got smoother too. So he got a little bit wider in the heel. He got a little bit more frog. Down here, this is a horse that I had here at my place, and you see that the frog got wider over time. The horn grew in here from the back, so these frogs can really regenerate. But it is important that they get blood supply, otherwise they cannot grow. So that is what I wanted to share with you about problems with the frog, metabolism, and abscesses. And now we're going to come to questions and answers. If you want to type them in or raise your hand, and then I'll try to answer if I can. Nobody? Everybody clear? Everybody understood everything? That is fantastic. Well, maybe not. Hello, Lisa. Lisa, do you have a microphone? No? You are unmuted. So I'm gonna mute you, and then I'm gonna come back to you. Maybe you can figure out what's wrong with your mic. Without a mic, you can't talk. So the first question is, Jennifer asks what causes abscesses. Abscesses are caused by necrotic tissue in the hoof capsule after either contraction, or it could be that clips from a shoe were really pressing and causing necrotic tissue. That means the tissue died off. And once the horse gets very vital again, then the hoof tries to rid itself of this necrotic tissue by encapsulating it and then producing around the capsule pus so that it can walk out the hoof capsule. Without the pus makes a path through the very tight hoof capsule, and that is what causes so much, the inflammation that goes with it causes so much pain. I hope that answers your question. And, hold on, need to go up there. And Lisa asked, is hoof canker the same as hoof abscess? No, absolutely not, and your curiosity will be satisfied in, not in the next lecture, but I believe in number 28. In one of the coming up lectures, I have a lot of pictures about hoof canker and what it is and what we do about it. Hardy asks, what are the bacteria that you use for treatment and where do you get them? I believe you talk about effective microorganisms or beneficial microorganisms, and they are strands of microorganisms that are put together so that they become beneficial. You can order them at scdworld.com. Actually, you can't order them there. It's SC like South Carolina, then D like Dora, world.com. And the resource guide for this is on the website equinesoundness.com. There is a newsletter. Go to the newsletter tab, look under the archives, and in November of 2009 I wrote a whole newsletter about effective microorganisms, and there are all the links in there where you can get them. I hope that helps. Alternatively, if you're in Colombia, you can come by and I can give you a gallon. That's just because Hardy lives in South Carolina, so that's an option. Rose, where's Rose? Yes, Rose.
I was just curious about that 26-year-old Dutch Warmblood. What kind of shape was his teeth in?
Lousy.
Okay.
Jerry worked on them twice, right after we got him, and then half a year later again, and he had really terrible teeth. Overfloated in parts, and then one had come out and the opposite tooth had grown into the gap. So there was a lot of problems. There was a reason why I got this horse back. Was he have been marginally usable, they would not have given him back.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So the abscess in his leg, so really, I mean, what caused that? I mean, I've just never ever heard or seen anything like that.
I've seen it several times, but then again, I deal with a lot of very sick horses. And I see it always in horses that got all their life medicated to perform. That builds up in the body, and
Okay.
if you don't have good kidney and liver function, the body cannot get rid of these pharmaceuticals. This would be the theme for a whole other seminar named Homotoxicology, how the body deals with disease, and not just the horse's body, but the human body as well. And why not to take any pharmaceuticals in, and why to try the nutrition way and the homeopathic way, and all these things. But yes, I have seen horses excuse me, with body abscesses quite a bit. And I had colleagues that have some of the same experience. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Lisa, did that answer your question? You obviously don't have a mic, so I hope it did, about the hoof canker. And Carla.
Hi. I just wanted to say, at the beginning you said that a lot of people have commented that they didn't want this to end, and I hope that some of those folks will consider either taking the horse owner's course you offer or the professional's course that you offer, and because there's so much more they can learn, and then there's so much hands-on they can get, and it's just a phenomenal opportunity. And so I just wanted to say to people that have expressed that desire to learn more that there's a great way to do that, and I hope that they'll consider that.
Thank you, Carla, and I would like to make a comment about Carla's comment. She does not get paid for this. You're just too cute. Denise. Denise, no microphone either, then you have to type. If you do have a microphone, you have to unmute it on your end, because I can certainly not hear you. I would love to hear what you have to say, or read it. I can read it to everybody. No? I hope nobody has problems anymore with the system. I know that one of you always sends me a note and says, I have a question, and then I call on them, but you really don't have to type this. You have in your dashboard a little hand that if you click on this, it raises the hand for me beside your name, and then I know that you have something to say. It's just like in class. Raise your hand and I will call on you. Unfortunately, I still can't hear Denise, or maybe now. Are you there? No. Well, if that is it, send me an email if there are any more questions. I appreciate you coming. No, Rosemary has a question. Okay?
I just wanted to say this at the end, but the video that went around on Facebook, I'm not on Facebook, but you can view it outside of Facebook, but it was the North Bay Farrier Service that put on the movement. Oh, I wanted to know what your opinion was of that video.
What my opinion was?
Yes.
I actually wrote on Facebook a comment to it, and I said I watched the video intently, and these are all the reasons why I think shoes are wrong. How on the asphalt the shoe glides forward and puts enormous stress on all the tissues. You can see this.
Mm-hmm.
The way it dug in, and the leg on top, you can see this perfectly in this video, how the leg on top is already turning and the shoe is still holding the hoof capsule to the ground.
I know, that was amazing.
It's a really amazing video, and if you have the link, maybe you could just post it on the Yahoo group, and everybody could see it.
That means I have to go on the Yahoo group.
Yeah. Or Rosemary, if you send it to me, I do it for you. How's that?
Okay. All right, because I think that it was just absolutely amazing. I mean, that was probably one of the grossest videos I've ever seen. Everybody should see that, and I think what we should do is all pitch together some money and throw out a video with, a same type with the movement of barefoot horses to the same music.
Yeah, I know.
Understand that there's a difference. That you could see that the hoof was taking all the shock of their leg and not moving it, like budging at all.
Yeah.
Like, this is so horrific.
Yeah, but I did comment on this video when people said, oh, this is so great, and once I had made the comment about the barefoot, I all of a sudden had a lot of barefoot people chirping up.
Yeah.
So we said our little piece, at least.
Yes, but you need to do a video with the
Yes.
same music.
And
I'll give you money.
you can also hang me from my toenails. If I have one more thing to do, Rosemary, I'm gonna jump out of a 10th floor window. So,
We'll pick on somebody else to do it.
okay, please do.
I did pick on Amy. I said, go and find some clips.
I would suggest Amy and Rosemary do this.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Denise asked, should we not I saw this, Denise. I just have to. Should we not vaccinate for tetanus and strangles? I'm not quite sure why you're asking this, but I am never telling you not to do something if that is what you want to do. I have said my part why I think what is wrong with vaccinations in general, and what is wrong with vaccinations if they are given all together at once. In general, if a horse has a very good immune system that you support with plenty of fresh air, less stress, lots of movement, good nutrition, and regular detoxification, then your horse probably can repair anything that comes flying onto him. The thing that I strongly recommend against is mainly to vaccinate 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things together. If you do feel you have to vaccinate your horse, then do it single dose at a time so that the body can deal with this. When the body is attacked by a disease, it is usually one disease at a time. If it is more than one disease, like in vaccinations, what happens in vaccinations, you give the disease in a minute amount into the body. You inject it into the body, and therefore the body builds antibodies to this confrontation. And when this is okay if you give one at a time, but if you give many at a time, then and the body is already compromised, which you cannot always assess by looking the horse in the eye, even by taking the temperature and all these things. And you know, a good veterinarian does take the horse's temperature before he vaccinates. He does listen to the heart, he feels the pulse, he checks the vital signs, and only when the horse is totally healthy should they vaccinate. I would really like to hear how many of you have that experience that their veterinarian does this, because it usually doesn't happen. So, having said all this, once you, what you do in the end depends entirely on your individual particular situation. An interesting comment that I got from a student in Sweden who is going to veterinary school, and she writes me every week a little report what she learned. And she said that she just learned that they recommend to vaccinate all horses everywhere. And the reason for this being, and she learned this actually in vet school, I was rather surprised, was that by doing this, you have no control group in which you can test the problems that come up with vaccinations, and the problems do not come up necessarily with the vaccinations themselves, but they come up with the stabilizers that are in the vaccinations. There is still mercury and a lot of other junk in the vaccinations. So, but from your last comment, I see that was probably more information than you wanted. But thank you for asking. Anybody else? going once, going twice, going home. Thank you for coming. Have a good rest of the evening or a wonderful day, and have a good week, and I see you next Tuesday. Same place, same time. Goodbye.